The revelation that Minister Alexandre de Moraes and his wife Viviane Barcy accumulated more than 23 million reais in real estate after his appointment to the Supreme Federal Court has brought to light a scenario of intense institutional pressure. The involvement of Mossad in the investigations of the Banco Master case and the pressure from the armed forces on the Supreme Federal Court have broadened the scope of the inquiries, placing Dias Toffoli and Alexandre de Moraes in a delicate position. This context of allegations involving Supreme Court justices is pressuring the court to adopt internal measures that, at the very least, temporarily remove the mentioned individuals until the trials take place. If this stance is not adopted, the risk is that the situation could develop into a large-scale institutional crisis. In this scenario, the possibility of sectors of the armed forces refusing to comply with decisions from the Supreme Court becomes feasible, where a lack of legitimacy in the rulings could be claimed.
Revenge is a dish best served cold, as the saying goes, and it seems that the armed forces and the federal police have decided to take revenge on the Supreme Court, more specifically, Alexandre de Moraes.
Such a deadlock could compromise the stability between the branches of government and open the door to a rupture in the relationship between the judiciary and the armed forces. With some generals already facing convictions and the risk of expulsion from the armed forces, a faction of the high military command is demanding that Supreme Court justices mentioned in corruption allegations also be put on trial. Otherwise, the country could plunge into an institutional deadlock capable of shaking the balance of the republic, paving the way for a crisis that goes beyond politics and threatens national governance itself. Welcome to Vida No Quartel.
And a report from the newspaper O Globo revealed messages that the owner of Banco Master, Daniel Vorcaro, sent to Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes on the day he was arrested for the first time.
A report published in the newspaper Estado de São Paulo shows that, in 5 years, at the Supreme Federal Court, Alexandre de Moraes' family bought almost 23.5 million reais in real estate and tripled their assets.
According to some federal police investigators, Minister Alexandre de Moraes' situation in the Master case is considered so serious that it is even more delicate than that of Dias Toffoli, whose relationship with Master appears to be linked to business dealings involving the purchase and sale of part of a resort. In Moraes' case, however, there are indications of actions in favor of the interests of the owner of Banco Master, Daniel Vorcaro, which raises the level of involvement and puts the Supreme Federal Court under strong pressure.
Investigators working on the Banco Master case point out that Minister Alexandre de Moraes' situation would be more difficult than that of Minister Dias Toffoli.
In this context, some investigators believe that there is already a movement within the court itself to form a majority and block the opening of an inquiry against Moraes and Toffoli. This perception of institutional shielding has generated indignation among general officers of the three armed forces, who see the situation as a legal deviation capable of compromising constitutional foundations. For the military, if the Supreme Court does not apply its own principles and judge the justices involved, the message sent will be that there is special protection for members of the court, while generals and officers are punished without any hesitation. This contrast is seen as an institutional imbalance, especially because Alexandre de Moraes is the rapporteur of the main criminal cases and investigations related to the events of January 8, which further increases the gravity of the situation.
Vale destacar que, conforme a Constituição Federal, Crimes de responsabilidade cometidos por ministros do Supremo devem ser julgados pelo Senado, enquanto crimes comuns são de competência da própria Corte, cabendo à Procuradoria-Geral da República investigar e apresentar denúncias. Assim, as acusações contra Moraes e Toffoli podem se enquadrar em ambas as categorias.
Vossa Excelência.
Sim, mas vocês...
Para vocês? Perdão, não entendi, ministro.
O tratamento que Vossa Excelência...
Me perdoe. Vossas Excelências, me perdoem.
The fortune accumulated by Alexandre de Moraes after his entry into the Supreme Court has raised serious doubts, since his official income would not even reach 1 million reais per year. The accumulation of more than 20 million reais in real estate in just 5 years cannot be plausibly explained within legal limits, and combined with the direct connection to the banker Daniel Moraes, puts the justice in a delicate position. This scenario has drawn special attention from the military, who see signs that the Supreme Court may be acting for its own benefit instead of safeguarding the public interest. The involvement of Mossad in the master investigation, even mentioned by Alexandre de Moraes himself, is considered strategic because the Israeli agency has advanced technological resources capable of restoring deleted messages from cell phones and computers, as well as accessing geographic movement data from past periods. This ability of Mossad to track hidden information can reveal suspicious connections that previously went unnoticed, expanding the scope of the investigations and bringing new elements to the case. With the progress of the investigations and the growing pressure from the armed forces, the Supreme Federal Court finds itself at an institutional crossroads. If there is no firm and transparent response, the perception of shielding may become consolidated, further fueling distrust among the military and society. This deadlock could redefine the relationship between the branches of government and open the door to a crisis that goes beyond the legal sphere, directly affecting the political stability of the country. After the conviction of general officers in the Supreme Court, many believe that the Superior Military Court should expel these officers from the armed forces, which would set a dangerous precedent for the summary removal of military personnel in political disputes. This movement causes unease, as it reinforces the perception that there is unequal treatment between institutions, especially when ministers like Alexandre de Moraes and Dias Toffoli remain in the Supreme Court even in the face of serious allegations. Supreme Court capacity, Supreme Court armed forces. So the armed forces, as state institutions, have the mission to defend the homeland, guarantee law and order, and preserve the constitutional branches of government. However, the question arises, what should be done if one of these branches of government violates the Constitution and fails to comply with it? This dilemma puts the role of the armed forces during institutional crises up for debate and opens the door to deeper reflecting on the limits of military action and the need for balance between the branches of government. Leave your opinion about all this here in the comments and what the armed forces could do without compromising what is established in the Constitution. Here at Life in the Barracks, you stay up to date with everything happening in the military world. Leave a like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos appearing on your screen. Forward fighters, see you next time.